Greetings, enlightened ones. Thank you for joining your store brand Reverend today. In today's video, we're going to be going over my prized vehicle, the Mustang here. This is a 2005 Ford Mustang GT 4.6 liter single overhead cam. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a 5.0 Mustang. Unfortunately, I really don't care about those vehicles. Everybody really likes the 5.0s, but I personally don't care for the 5.0. The 4.6 is the best platform in my opinion, and I'm going to explain why. Now, this video is a long time coming. I've been wanting to do a video on my Mustang for a while. I didn't even know where to film the damn thing, and I thought, you know what, we'll just go to Galveston. The beach is right out there. You're kind of having a little bit of a look at the vista of the buildings in the back here. So we're kind of on the eastern beach right now. But yeah, I've been wanting to do this video for a while. I just had a lot of issues with the Mustang, unfortunately. I had put 410s into it, and the shop did not really adjust the pinion angle on, which we'll get into in a little bit. The pinion angle essentially destroyed the 410 setup, so now I've had to put a stock rear end back into it, which is now running, I believe, 331s is what the guy's claiming. It's a 2009 rear end. I got into Mustangs ever since my cousin had actually owned an 03 SN95, and it was just a 3.8 liter. At the time, I didn't know what car to get. I was just coming out of high school, and I needed to get a car. I was thinking, you know, maybe Honda or a Toyota, but I wanted something more cooler. I always wanted to have my first car to be a cool car, as would we all, right? And honestly, a V6 is still a cool car, right? I mean, it's not fast, it's more of a grocery getter, right? I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, so I actually got a 1998 Mustang V6 3.8, and I paid about $1,500 for it until I eventually got this one. This one, though, is gonna be my prized, like, dream car Mustang. I love the styling of it. The retro look of these cars is why they get stared at so much more than I would say an S550 Mustang, which are from 2015 to 2023. These cars are very rare too. You rarely see them on the road anymore, and if you do, they're not really GTs. They're usually a V6, which is kind of weird why there's more V6s on the road, a 4.0 more than the 4.6. However, that's what makes it so special, is the fact that you feel like when you have such an old car already, you feel like you're more noticed. When I drove the 1998, I felt special because the 98, almost nobody has the 90s Mustangs. That was also a ugly stepchild type of vehicle. A lot of people did not like the first gen SN95s until the new edges came out. Then people actually gave a shit. But nobody liked the bubbly taillight look. It kind of grew on me. Obviously, it was my first car, so of course I'm going to like it and enjoy it. If I were to get that body style again, I would definitely get a Cobra. When you get an old car like this and you don't see them on the road very often, it's almost as if like you're more noticed and you feel empowered. I don't know how to describe it. You feel different on the road, especially with a Mustang like this generation, like this body style. I get compliments all the time. I've had cops compliment me. I've had goth chicks when I've been pulling up into a concert, literally taking pictures as they're waiting in line to get into the concert as I'm trying to park. I've had, actually on my way here to Galveston, he saw my little priest get up here, and he was on a motorcycle as I was coming out here. And he kind of looked at me and he did the whole like, and then he was just like this to me. So, you know, it's, the get up with the car really says a whole lot, you know? So, and I appreciate that a lot from people. It makes me very happy to know that the work that I put in and the love that I put into this vehicle is appreciated back. You know, I don't really ask much in life, but having that type of reciprocation, that a gratitude is very nice, and that's really all I live for. You know, if something were to happen to this vehicle, I'm not a very materialistic type of person, but I would be devastated. Like if I lost everything, you know, excluding the car, I think I would be happy. But you know, everybody has something that they're very attached to emotionally. It has a lot of sentimental value to them, and this car just holds a lot of weight for me. I really would be devastated to know that this car got into an accident, because it's going to be hard to try to then get another one. Given all the tariff situation that we're going through right now and the car market being very weird, and cost of living is just really weird too. These cars on the market are kind of always fluctuating. They go up, they go down. It's nowhere near in the middle. You can get into these cars. If you want a really clean, low mileage one, you're probably going to be looking at about $10,000 to $12,000. Though if you're looking for a roachy looking one, you're probably going to be looking at closer to about $5,000, okay? So this here is obviously a GT Deluxe, and it is a 2005 4.6 liter single overhead cam. A lot of people always like to give the Mustang community shit for having a 4.6 and not a 5.0, and apologies, I have to keep holding my fucking hat because this breeze is absolutely killer. Now, a little bit of a background story of the vehicle. I thought I would just make mention real briefly about how where this vehicle kind of comes from, right? So this car was actually picked up in San Diego, and it's lived its whole life for the most part in California, other than before I got it, and now I live in Houston, Texas. The original owner bought it brand new, and story goes from what the previous owner had told me before I acquired it was, so this car has been through 3 owners now, me being the 3rd. So what the previous owner had told me was the first owner was actually dying of cancer, God rest his soul. I don't remember what kind of cancer it was, but it was something that was affecting his legs, so he couldn't really drive the vehicle much. And you know, that has to absolutely fucking suck to, you know, be able to acquire probably what could have been his dream car at the time, you know, before I acquired it, and you know, not even being able to drive the vehicle anymore because you are pretty much handicapped, right? He would tell me that he would go into this vehicle and just spend time inside of it. You know, he couldn't drive it, but you know, he would get inside the vehicle, he would listen to the radio on it. Obviously, it didn't have the Dynavision system or any of that crazy crap on it. It had the stock stereo system on it, but he would go in there, listen to the radio, and just be one with the car, essentially, right? So it does have a little bit of a kind of heart-touching type of story behind it, and that kind of a morbid one too, because it's kind of got a death story behind it, I guess. So I guess it fits the goth motif. Then once the owner that I took it from had gotten it, he racked quite a lot of miles on it. He'd gotten it at 30,000 miles and then racked it up to about 130. So that is quite literally 100,000 miles later, I acquired the vehicle. He never really gave me any information as to what he did to it. He just said that he was always throwing Royal Purple oil in it and that he was always taking care of the car. But to my surprise, I think he did the bare minimum to this car, because he claimed that he had like a 68 fastback. He had all kinds of other Mustangs as well with him. He probably treated this vehicle as more of a commuter and didn't really give a shit much about it and kind of beat on it a little bit, because I found that most of the fluids in this thing when I picked it up were pretty dirty aside from the oil. I mean, the coolant was starting to corrode the engine. The brake fluid still to this day looks pretty old, even though I've done a brake flush on it. But like I said, I'm going to be redoing the whole brake system on this thing anyway, so I'm not really worried about it. So I think the guy really did a bare minimum with this vehicle. When I had picked it up, it was fully stock, as mentioned as well, so he didn't even really care to do any real modifications to it. This car, I believe, has this engine, in any way, has the best sounding engine V8 that Ford has ever produced, in my opinion, aside from the 5.0 push rods that were in the Fox body Mustangs. Those can sound pretty good too. The 2 valves sound okay too, but where Ford really nailed it was redesigning the heads and giving them 3 valves, which is where the name implies 3 valves, which I believe it's 2 intake, 1 exhaust. And the way that this engine produces its exhaust note is because of that weird valves that they have. These cars sound absolutely amazing. You will not get a more traditional, deeper style note to the exhaust system on these cars. It's one of the reasons why I love this platform so much, is the way that this engine sounds. It is absolutely good, especially if you put a cam in it. If you put a stage 1, you could do a 2, a 3. I personally would love to put a stage 3 in this thing because it would chop all over the place and it would sound so damn good. But even with a stage 1, these things sound amazing. And I will go ahead and put you a little sound clip of what that sounds like. This is probably going to be like that ugly stepchild type of car where it was very underappreciated, along with the first gen SN95. You know, this car has a very great look, but where a lot of people don't like it is the fact that it doesn't make a whole lot of power. Now, being that it is the 4.6 platform and the 5.0 didn't come until 2011, they don't make a whole lot of power. But that's all right, because, you know, sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't always about going fast. No. In my opinion, I think it's about having a great cruiser that sounds absolutely great when it comes to the iconic muscle car V8 noise. And let me tell you, Ford did an amazing job with this engine. I mean, this is probably Ford's last engine to make a great exhaust note. Some would argue the 5.0 sounds pretty good, but in my opinion, I don't think the 5.0 sounds all that good. And the reason for that is because they have dual overhead cam, and it is the way that its displacement is the reason why those cars just happen to sound more raspier, more higher pitched. This car is a single overhead cam, right? So it's a 4.6 single overhead cam, and so you still get that choppiness. You know, if you cam the car, this happens to be cam, stage 1 that is, which we'll get into mods here in a little bit, but the reason why these cars sound so fucking good is because of the fact that you don't have dual overhead cam, for one, and two, it's because of the valves. Because there's only 3 valves, which is why it's called a 4.63 valve, or a lot of people just call this platform the 3 valve era. I don't know how many people ask me about my car and give me so many looks with this car, and it's because of the styling. The styling is just so damn good, and it sounds so damn good with it. Even just a stage 1 cam. I wish I could do a stage 3, but these aren't the heads I want to build with this 4.6. I do want to build the 4.6. A lot of people do the 5.0 swap in these cars, which is cool, but I feel like everybody 5.0 swaps everything, and I think it's just overblown, overdone. I think the more appreciated thing that you could do for these cars is actually building the 4.6. Will it cost you more money? Absolutely. However, it's more rewarding. I mean, when you can beat a 5.0 and then, you know, laugh about it because everybody calls these cars slow, you got beat by a 5.0, you got a slow-ass 3-valve, you know, I think it would be more rewarding to do the underdog thing and actually put some money into this little 4.6 and actually laugh in everybody's faces when you're making 1,000 horsepower out of a 4.6, which it is capable. However, you have to build the engine. Like I mentioned, you do have to put quite a sum of money into these cars. The 4.6 doesn't make a lot of power without actually, well, it doesn't make a whole, you can't put a whole lot of boost in these engines without actually upgrading the internals, which are mainly the rods. The rods are the weakest link on these. You can make comfortably about 400 to 500 horsepower. It's the torque that you got to really watch out for. From what I've seen in a lot of forums is 450 torque is like your max. You can go pretty high in the horsepower, but you're going to be pretty capped at the torque range on these. It's the torque that destroys the rods. 450 is about your max. You wouldn't want to go any more than that. What's great about this car? It's an absolutely fantastic cruiser. The ride is extremely comfortable for being that it is a Mustang. Now, if you do decide to upgrade a lot of, you know, suspension components, like I want to get coilovers, it's going to be a little rough on the ride, but it is an amazing cruiser. It's a very reliable platform. I mean, hell, I'm even seeing a lot of those newer 5.0s, like the Gen 2s, 3s especially, having oil consumption issues. You won't really find that too much in a 4.6. Long as if you take care of it, it will take care of you. The motor is a very sound, reliable motor. They're easily capable of going to at least 300,000 miles, given the great amount of maintenance you do to it. You do get the retro styling as well. It's a great body. It's timeless. It is a very great, iconic look to the 68 Fastback. So in my opinion, that's what will also sell this vehicle in terms of a good positive aspect to it. Parts on this car are also very easily accessible, and they're very cheap as well. Maintenance items included, not just mods. So if you're trying to get a car that's pretty cheap on maintenance as well as modifications, this is the platform to do it. Comparably to, say, Chevy's Camaro or even Dodge parts for that matter. Damn, Dodge is extremely expensive. So if you're looking for cheap power, these cars will do it for you without actually breaking the bank. And these cars make a considerable amount of horsepower. It's nothing fast, it's nothing too crazy, you know, but you know, it will kill you if you don't respect the car, right? You make about realistically 280 average wise, 280 horsepower to the wheels, and about 290, 300 foot-pounds to the wheel in terms of torque. Now, there's a lot of modifications you can obviously do to get it to where it actually, what Ford claims to this car actually puts out. They only go by crank, but they're not actually going by rear wheel horsepower. So I actually got this car to get to about 320 horsepower when I dynoed it. I think it's pulling more. I didn't know how to dyno my own car, but that's neither here nor there. So what are some things that are bad about these cars that you should watch out for? Either they're just quirks or things that can get in the way of you wanting to purchase one of these vehicles. Well, I think one of the #1 issues is actually going to be the water leak issues that happen with these vehicles. And as I've mentioned, I already have a video on this where I've talked about the water leak issues on these Mustangs, and they're absolutely fucking annoying to deal with. The main concern or main water leak issue is the cowl grommets inside the cowl here. They just, over time, over the course of years, the grommets go bad and they just dump a shit ton of water into the floor. And then what ends up happening is that water will get on the body control module that sits in the passenger floorboard, fries the electronics, and you have crazy shit happening, like your headlights will stay on, your door locks won't work, the car will think it's in safe mode. So you get a lot of crazy electrical crap that happens because of that water leak issue. Your carpet starts smelling like shit. It's a very common issue that happens on the S197 platforms that goes from 05 to 14. Maybe Ford had, I don't hear it so often on the 2010 to 14s being a problem, even though they're literally the exact same in terms of how the clips are and everything. Maybe Ford had done something a little bit differently for those years, but it's mainly a big plague for the 05 and 09 era. The other issue too is that you will, if you're not taking care of these engines, they won't take care of you, and that says anything about a Ford vehicle, right? I believe firmly that Fords are pretty reliable. Older Fords, newer Fords, I firmly believe in older Fords being some of the most reliable vehicles that there are on the market, even comparatively to Chevy. And let me tell you, I'm not a Ford guy. I'm not a brand loyal kind of guy. I just see that from owning Fords over the years, older ones in any way, that they've treated me well if I just do an upkeep. The maintenance on them, that whole found on road dead shit really doesn't exist as long as if you take care of the vehicle. And really that goes for any vehicle. I mean, I don't see as many issues with Fords as I've seen with Chevys, because a lot of those Vortec engines, those 5.3s that are in Chevys, all they do is burn oil. I've not once had any, and they came out at about the same time as this 4.6 had came out, and I've not seen any real oil consumption issues with this 4.6 here. However, one of the issues that happens with these 4.6s is the cam phasers. A lot of the timing will go bad on these cars if you don't upkeep the maintenance on them. So me, I use full synthetic oil. I change it every 3,000 miles. And yes, I do dog the shit out of my car from time to time. So long as if you're keeping up with the oil changes on this thing, timing won't really be too much of an issue for you. But a lot of people seem to have issues with the cam phasers ticking and going bad. There's many videos out there on YouTube explaining the whole cam phaser ticking. So it is something, if you are trying to buy one of these, making sure that that cam phaser tick is not present, because otherwise I would steer away. Unless you feel like redoing the whole entire timing on the Mustang. And either which way, I mean, I'm already at 170,000 miles on this vehicle. I probably should be doing timing, but you know what? Don't fix what's not broken is how I live with a lot of my vehicles. Another quirk that I've already talked about is the interior. The interior is just kind of cheap. It's something that, you know, there are some common things that do break, like the door handles kind of get a little loose over time, and they don't seem to actually retain closing anymore unless you push it back in. So door handles are kind of a problem on this car. Ford was coming into a time where they were starting to redesign a lot of the plastics on this car and really modernizing the what we see today on the road, right? So this is probably going to be the foundation platform for a modernized interior system on this thing. I noticed comparatively to the 98 that plastics aren't as cheap comparatively to 90s cars. So, you know, things in this car in some way, shape, or form feel a little bit more rigid, more sturdier. Things don't rattle as much as the 98 did. So Ford did a pretty good job for what they had to be able to at least bolster up a little bit of the interior, but it still kind of lacks. The e-brake can tend to fail pretty commonly on these vehicles as well. Over time, just constantly cranking the crap out of it, the e-brake cable can actually snap, which is exactly what happened to me, and I see that it is a common issue to happen on these vehicles. There was one day I was in California, I was going through a Del Taco drive-thru, and I went to go crank on my e-brake, and the whole thing went whoosh, and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, and that was about $200 later to buy a new assembly. So yeah, the e-brakes, I've been told, are pretty common to break on these cars. So they get stretched out and get damaged over time because of the way that it's designed. Another issue that I see is that the stepper motors also tend to fail. I noticed that I actually had one fail on me at one point too, where the oil gauge, or maybe it was the voltage, I can't really remember, but it didn't want to, it either went all the way to the right or it just didn't work at all. So I actually had made a video where I had actually soldered on a new stepper motor. So that video will also be showcased if I can. So if you guys ever have that issue, I already have a video on how to replace it, thankfully. Another major issue that I actually almost forgot to mention is the spark plug issue that has been plaguing these cars from '05 to '07 specifically. Ford had actually redesigned the heads on these vehicles so that way they wouldn't have this problem anymore. But on the '05 to '07, which this one happens to be an '05 obviously, I think Ford had fixed this problem by not making a two-piece design, and the spark plugs are now a single piece that they now design for these engines. But back then they used to be a two-piece design. So what would happen was, the car reaches 100,000 miles on the stock spark plugs, right? And people that would go to try to take them out, because the problem is water gets into the alleys of the spark plug coils here, and then they get corroded. And so what happens is they get seized inside the actual head of the vehicle. So you could probably see where this is going. So when people try to attempt to take and extract the spark plugs out, it actually snaps and breaks them, and the shield part gets seized up and gets stuck inside the actual head. And I had actually made a video on this as well. If you guys, like I said, I have a bunch of YouTube videos on this car just because I love this platform so much. So I did kind of go into detail about the spark plugs and how to check them. If I can also put it in this vehicle, or in this video, I will also have a link to that to further explain this issue. But anyways, yes, so if you are looking into getting one of these vehicles, it is kind of risky when you do buy an '05 to '07 because you don't know if the spark plugs have been changed from the stock ones. Unless the owner has done them himself and has some kind of documentation on it, you got to be very careful because you will have to buy the extractor tool set if you do happen to break a spark plug inside the head while extracting it. But realistically, aside from those issues, there's really not a whole lot wrong with these cars other than, I would say, the two major ones is the water leaks and the spark plug issue on these cars, at least from '05 to '07. It's just an absolutely fantastic car, and it's an absolutely fantastic cruiser. There's not really a whole lot I can say negative about this car. Those that are looking to get into these cars, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you get a manual. Look for a manual, the TR 3650. It is a Tremec 3650 5-speed manual. No, unfortunately, it is not a 6-speed. A lot of people want the 6 speeds, and I included want to get a 6-speed as well. I'd like to get a T56 or a 6060, one of the two. But unfortunately, these are 5 speeds, but they're reliable 5 speeds. Comparably to the automatics that come with these cars, they're actually dog shit. I would not actually get an automatic version. That is the only bad aspect in terms of the drivetrain when it comes to these cars. Is I would not recommend getting a automatic transmission. They don't seem to hold up very well. They have all kinds of sorts of issues. Now, it's hard to say if people are taking care of them or if they're just common problems in general, but you will have a lot more fun with a manual. I absolutely guarantee you will have so much more fun with a manual. Learn how to drive it. I learned how to drive stick on this car, and it's been an absolute blast. It goes hand in hand with that that cruiser aspect of it. Is a great cruiser when it comes to the fact that you can take this thing on road trips and you can constantly going through gears. It's absolutely fun. Where it's not fun is going through Houston traffic. My God, I'm sure you Houstonians know what the hell I'm talking about. Just get a manual. You will not regret getting a manual transmission in these cars. If you do get it in about '05 to '06, I believe those generations specifically came with the 355 gearing, which mine of course did because it was an '05. However, if you get anything from '07 to '09, those actually have a 331, which is what I believe is in my rear as of right now, because I told you the rear end had to be replaced. We're gonna have a look around the vehicle and I'll showcase everything that I've done cosmetically to the vehicle, and then we'll go ahead and go into modifications that I've done, and I'll showcase those, how much work it's taken me, time and effort to get the modifications. This car is obviously tailored to my taste and my look. I'm obviously into the goth scene, or the creepy shit as you want to call it. So this car is a representation of me, is what I would like to call it. And you'll definitely see that here once I bring you over here. Alrighty, so right off the bat, as you can see here, we have smoked out headlights, smoked out fog lights, and my best piece on this car, I say, is probably going to be the skeleton horse. Damn, did I kill a bug in there? Oh, damn, I think I killed a bee up in there. That poor little guy. But yeah, so the skeleton horse, that I actually did by hand. It's not an original design. Obviously, there's many people that actually create these designs, the skeleton look, as you'd want to call it. But I actually hand did that one, so I'm kind of proud of myself that I was able to do that. I'm not no artist, but sometimes I can get my brain to do things, and I'm kind of proud of that design. I do have some 3D printed ones actually coming though from another individual. The only reason why I'm swapping to those now is because, you know, it's starting to crack though. Even though this is acrylic and enamel, you can see the paint's still starting to crack from the UV damage. It's still got chipped. No matter what kind of prepping you do, what kind of paint you put on these things, it's just always exposed to road debris, and Houston has much of that. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get rid of my version of the skeleton death horse and use a 3D printed aspect one. The bottom down here, the splitter, we do have I think it's Speed Form. I can't remember who makes that splitter, but I got it off of American Muscle. It just fills out the gap and it makes it look so much more aggressive when you do get the splitter. I would highly recommend getting the splitter with these cars if you do have the stock GT front bumper. Then we have the GT500 hood. This is a replica by True Fiber. It came with the car actually. It was probably the only thing that wasn't stock with the car. The owner claimed that he would give me the stock hood if I went back down to San Diego, but I couldn't be asked because it's just so damn far. So I didn't really bother even attempting to go back down to San Diego to grab it, but it would have been some extra money in my pocket just to sell. Going on the sides here, I also hand drew the tri-bar skeleton emblems, but these ones are also starting to fall apart too. You can see it starting to crack right there as well. So I do have some 3D printed ones that are being made by the same individual that's going to make the front one for me. So these guys are going to be going bye-bye here pretty soon. Unfortunately, my design will be now forfeit, but you know, this is what they look like as of currently. And you know, I'm pretty proud of myself for actually creating these. Now, obviously it's a GT, so some people will pull up on me and thinking that this is a V6 because these tri-bars actually only exist on the V6s. They don't exist on a GT. There's actually GT emblems that go here instead. So a lot of people mistaken me for a V6, but it's just because I put those on there. And then there is my Instagram if y'all want to follow me on the car, 3V Reanimated. I don't really post very much on Instagram, only here and there. So anything that I do have that's a big project that is going to be worked on the car, I do try to tend to take pictures and kind of document things on the car. Smoked out the little side markers there on the rear here. It does have Raxium V2s, I think is what those ones are. Those are the V2 Raxium taillights. They're very iconic of the 2013 to 14 style taillight, which I really enjoy. I'm kind of liking the Vectors now, though. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to upgrade these eventually in the future to get I think they're also a V2 Vector. Those are my next ones. They are sequential, too, so they do kind of do the sequential taillights, so I do enjoy that. And then I had another individual. This is also my design as well. He just managed to put it into a metal stamp here for the deck lid here, 3V Reanimated, and this is actually my Photoshop design that he was able to, you know, craft into this metalwork here. Unfortunately, it's faded over the UV here, so I got to kind of re-prep it, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for creating this in Photoshop. All the intricate little bone pieces I actually hand did, painstakingly hand did. You know, I just got the image from Google, the horse in any way, and then I just started painting in digitally on Photoshop, and then I just sent it to him like, hey, here's my design, this is what I want, and go ahead and just, you know, make it for me. It looks amazing. I love it. His name is Axel so-and-so. I can't remember his name. Axel something. If you guys want a custom deck lid or any metalwork that's custom, I will have his Facebook in the description below, so that way you guys can make your own custom stuff as well. All right, but yeah, going around, it's got the stock spoiler on it. We did obviously put a custom fuel door on it. This is from American Muscle. You usually can pick these up for like 70-80 bucks. Kind of just fits the car. We do have 17-inch rims on it with a 305, I believe. I think these are 305. No, sorry, 255. Sorry, I'm really bad with my tire sizes. I'm really bad at that. When it comes to rims and tire sizes to flush out the wheel, I let other people do that shit for me. I hate trying to figure that crap out. But yeah, they're 255s with 17-inch rims. They have that iconic bullet style, which is why I liked them. They're just classic American Muscle rims. You can get these cars with stock Ford rims that look exactly like these, but what's cool about these is they're lightweight, so you have less rotational drag. Brakes are slightly upgraded, not really. I mean, they have drilled slotted rotors with the power stop brake system on them. There's just another look at my crappy emblem starting to fall apart. You can see the paint's chipping. I didn't use acrylic enamel and prep it very well on these comparatively to the first one up there in the grill, so that is all on me, and which is why it's getting replaced. All right, let's go over some modifications that we've done to the vehicle. Alrighty, so here's what the engine looks like here. So we do have the JLT cold air intake paired up with the BBK throttle body with the Ford Performance intake manifold. Does have MSD coil packs. There's a couple of these mods that actually a lot of people hate having on these cars because they're kind of problematic, but I personally have never had any issues with them, thankfully. It also has a Ford Performance Stage 1 hot rod cam as well in it. And before you guys ask, no, I did not do any of the timing on this thing. I did not redo any of the timing on it. So I just slapped the stock phaser back on it, and so far I've been running it like this for over 2-3 years now. Haven't had any issues, thankfully. I also put an Evil Energy catch can on it. JLTs are just super expensive. I can't be asked to pay $150 for one function on a vehicle. So I went ahead and got the $30 catch can off of Amazon. It works and functions exactly the same. These cars have a little bit of PCV blow by, so that's why I would highly recommend getting at least a catch can for these vehicles. So that way you're not putting a shit ton of oil back into the intake system and getting all your valves gunked up with carbon deposits. A bit of a minor mod, but we do have HPS silicone radiator hoses, which are great because they hold up a lot better than your traditional rubber hoses. So these things pretty much will probably last the lifetime of the vehicle. Nice small little quality of life mod when it comes to this vehicle. Probably one of the craziest mods that I have done to this car is when I actually hit a curb with this thing. Yes, I did a typical Mustang owner thing and I hit a curb and I did a lot of damage, which, you know, we'll talk about the suspension work and what I've done to it here momentarily. But so when I had hit a curb, I'd done some pretty bad damage to the subframe of the vehicle. It made a nice ding inside of it. It also tweaked the whole rear end where it was starting to dogtail a little bit. It did a lot of damage. And that's kind of where I decided, well, we might as well just update and upgrade all the rear suspension and go ahead and just put a tubular K-member on the front. And when I did that, I also wanted to do one other thing. Those of you that are familiar with the 4.6, noticing anything that's missing in terms of the fluid reservoirs here? If you say power steering, you would be correct. So my power steering reservoir would usually sit right here. I've completely deleted the hydraulic power steering system on this thing. So we decided to do the EPAS swap. So as you can see down there where my finger is, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. You can see the electronics right there. That's going to be the EPAS system that I have hooked up to it. And what an EPAS system does is it gives you electric power steering instead. So that is a rack from a 2013 Mustang. I think it was a V6. And I had a guy make a custom harness for me that will basically activate the EPAS system. So that's actually what you're seeing right here. All this wiring right here is actually going to my battery and giving me power to the rack. And then what sends a signal to turn the rack on essentially is the CAN system underneath the dash and the OBD system. So the EPAS system is a very great system, and I'll tell you why. Is it frees up room. So I removed all the pulleys, all the power steering pump, all the lines, the pulleys. Now it's got a shorter belt system on it now. It's absolutely great. Now if you wanted to spend a little extra money, you could get a module for it to change from comfort to I think track and then default settings. I just have it on the default setting, and I think it's absolutely perfect and fine for my setup. So, but that option is there. I forget the gentleman's name. I think if you just type in on Google wireeverything.com, that is the gentleman that made this harness specifically for this vehicle. It was about $300, so a little pricey, but you know, you get what you pay for. You get something quality, and it works every time I turn on the vehicle. Now, it's not a mod, but we did redo the entire AC system on this thing, so it blows nice and cold too. Just thought I'd make mention. So we got a new dryer, new condenser, redid all the O-rings in the system, changed out the orifice tube as well. Another little driveline mod that I also included is it does have a single piece Ford Performance drive shaft. And I used to have Ford Performance 410s on this thing until I didn't. And, you know, we had already talked about the fact that the shop didn't adjust my pinion angle correctly. I tried putting my concerns towards them, and all they said was like, it's just the gears, it's just what they do, they make that noise. But I knew it wasn't normal, and I tried to take it to another shop, which just made the pinion angle even worse. And so the pinion bearing essentially went bad on the 410 setup that I had. So now we are running the stock drivetrain in the back. In terms of the axle, we're now running 331s as mentioned. So I will eventually rebuild the 410s and put a better gear set in it. I'm thinking Yukon. We're going to go ahead and redo all the bearings again. We're probably going to use the differential. It seems like it's still okay, but there was absolutely crap tons of metal inside of that thing. No metal chunks, just a lot of metal debris in the fluid. So yeah, that bearing is absolutely toast in there. So that is what is going on right now, at least for the rear end. Now let's go ahead and get into exhaust here. So we do have BBK long tube headers paired up with the BBK off-road X pipe. Now, when it comes to mufflers, we are using the, I believe it's the Super 40 series when it comes for Flowmasters. So yes, I am using a Flowmaster system on this. I'm using some of the cheapest exhaust on this car, but I'm going to tell you right now, I believe, in my opinion, the cheap exhaust systems that you put on these is what makes these cars sound so damn good. You know, instead of getting your Borlas, your Corsas, I believe all of that kind of stuff. Borla's kind of Mustangy, but I feel like that stuff, that exhaust system belongs more on a Dodge product. I don't even know about Camaros, Chevys in any way with the LS engines. I don't really get into those cars much, so I don't really know what's the best sound system or the exhaust system. But when it comes to Mustangs, just throw the cheap exhaust parts on them. It literally sounds the best to me. And honestly, long tube headers are long tube headers. They're going to give you the same horsepower. It really doesn't matter, long as if they're ceramic and they won't rust, or you don't live in a rust or state in any way. I decided to not even get ceramic ones though personally, just because I don't live in a rust state. But yeah, these cars just sound absolutely amazing with these exhaust systems. So what are some modifications I would like to have done to this car in the future and near future for that matter? Well, what I would like to do right now, I do have a sticky caliper. Man, those seagulls are fucking loud. I think they're fighting over food. They just keep like attacking each other. At any rate, mods that I would like to do currently right now. Well, I do have a sticky caliper. I don't know which one it is. It's either the left or the right one. So if I push the brake super hard, it just wants to pull super hard to the left. So I think the right caliper is what's sticking. So the brake system is my #1 goal right now. And I'm about halfway there. So I've already gotten the GT500 Brembo 4 pistons. They're super cheap. You can get Remand ones off of Rock Auto for like $80 per caliper for the fronts. The GT500 setup, they use the same rear calipers in the rear, so I don't even really have to upgrade the rear calipers. However, if I am going to do the GT500 setup, I do have to get the 15-inch rotors. I believe they're 15s. So there's a problem with that though. These are 17s, and because it is a 4-piston design, even a 6-piston for that matter, if I wanted to go 6-piston, I can't run the damn calipers with these rims, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to sell these rims and get entirely new rims. I think I can fit 18s. I have to really do my research. I already told you guys, I hate trying to figure out wheel fitments on this shit. It's absolutely fucking annoying, and I honestly just ask other people, you know, I tell them, this is what I want. What do you think is the best tire size? You know, I still want to have the fat tire look, so that's why I don't want to go 19s. 18s is where I really realistically want to be if I still want to try to retain a little bit of the fat tire look, you know, because I believe these cars look the best with the fat tire look just because it has that modern muscle car look. So I would have to do at least 18s with like I think like an 18.5 offset, if I'm not mistaken, if I have that right in my head. Again, I told you guys, I'm not really good with the wheel dimensions. However, though, you do need to get 15-inch rotors for the rear, and they'll still use the same brake calipers for the rear. You still need to get the adapters though. So you have two options for the adapters for the GT500 setup. You could get the eBay adapter that is like 50 bucks. That's just an extension to the already adapter on the actual axle hub. Or you could do it proper and get the actual GT500 bracket where you pull the axle out, you replace the bracket, and you put the GT500 bracket on. A little bit more expensive. It's about $120 per bracket, so you're going to be paying like $240 at the end of the day to do left and right. And you will have to pull the axles out to replace it. Most people will probably just do the $50 adapter and be done with it. However, this is my personal vehicle. I believe that's a little unsafe to have like a spacer on it. That's pretty much what it is. It's like a spacer. I would much rather do the job right, and I'm all about doing things proper when it comes to my own vehicle, so I'm probably gonna have to fork out that kind of money. I don't believe it's necessary, but I bought them anyways. I also bought the GT500 front dust shields, which are like these little tiny like elbow things. Like it really does nothing but it protects the lower ball joint, I believe, or it's the outer tie rod. I can't remember which one it does. So you're gonna have a pretty much open wheel completely for it. What I also already have as well is I do have the brake lines. So I'm going steel brake lines on this entire thing. I'm going to be also upgrading the DOT system to DOT 4, which is the brake fluid, of course. So we're going to be going with DOT 4 here very soon. So I'm going to flush the entire system. It's going to have fresh fluid in it with nice steel braided lines, and I'm going to be using DOT 4 conversion here. Another mod that I need to do too, a lot of these mods I should have probably made mention is they're actually more they're upgrades is what I would call them. They're quality of life and upgrades to the actual car itself. I want to get coilovers. So we're talking suspension, right? So I do want to stiffen up this suspension on this car. I'm actually trying to build this car to be more of a kind of derby track type of car where I can take it to the track. I'm not building it for drag. I don't really care for the drag shit much. So I'm actually trying to build this to be more corner carving. You take it to the mountains, it's going to handle those corners like a champ. That's the type of ideal setup I want to do for this Mustang here. And the coilovers I've been looking at, I really am not too sure what brand I want to go with. I do want it to look good underneath under there too, and it's either going to be a red setup or it's going to be black. It's one or the other. Unfortunately, I've been looking at silvers though, and as the name implies, they are a silver colored coilover, about $1,200 to get the whole system. I want to get adjustable caster and camber plates so that way I can really dial in the suspension on this thing, just because, you know, you start fiddle fucking with all the suspension on this car, you're going to be looking at really changing the geometry pretty heavily on this car, especially when you, as soon as you lower these cars, it throws the geometry off completely. So you have to get a lot of adjustable things, like especially for the rear, because it is a solid axle, you do have to get an adjustable panhard bar, right? I actually failed to mention that some of the suspension work that I've already done to the car, it does have a BMR adjustable, a lot of BMR shit, honestly. It's cheap, it's polyurethane, it does the job essentially. So that's why I just went with a lot of the BMR stuff, and it's relatively quality. So I do have an adjustable panhard bar in the rear that's BMR, adjustable lower control arms, because when I had actually thought I tweaked the frame of the vehicle, but luckily I had a shop tell me that I didn't tweak the frame of the vehicle at all, so I'm very thankful for that. So it does have adjustable lower control arms. The other thing that it does have is it does have the that little bar above the top when it comes to the panhard bar. It's like a little strut bar. I don't know what the hell you would call it, but I didn't replace the rear sway bar. It's still the stock sway bar for both front and rear. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at the interior and see some of the things that I have done on the interior side of things. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go on the inside here. So it's nothing crazy. It's obviously showing its age for being 2005. I try to take care of it as much as I can, but unfortunately, age always comes for everything. I do have a tear starting to happen right here on the edge of the seat here. That's just from getting in and out of the vehicle, so I'm gonna have to get that restitched here. I had this seat cover replaced by myself, and it's already starting to crack again, even though I've taken care of the leather on this thing. Must be some cheap pleather or something. It doesn't really hold up, unfortunately, but I love the interior of these cars. It still has that modern retro look to it, and it's a great interior. Honestly, Ford did an amazing job with this thing. The only thing is that, you know, you have a lot of rickety plastic from, you know, we're still plagued from the you know, early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it still has that really cheap feel to it. The only thing is that is still good about it, though, is that it has gotten better. I would say this is probably the generation where the interior is starting to improve. You get less rattles, and especially when you got a stereo system. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could even retrofit the 2010 to 14 interior in these cars, because it is an S197. If you really wanted to modernize the car even further, you could even put the 2010 and 14 interior with little fabrication, and it will actually just plug and play for the most part. Which, in saying that, I do have a 2010 to 14 style steering wheel, which we'll get into that here in a second. So let's go ahead and go on the inside here. So this is what I look at every day on my beautiful car here. So some of the modifications that we have done, obviously, for the interior here is we do have, again, I just literally mentioned it, the 2010 to 14 style steering wheel. I went with this steering wheel because of the Dynavin stereo system that I do have on it, which we'll also get into this nice little guy right here. But I wired this guy in to basically work with the stereo, so I do have some functionality up here with the buttons. They don't always work, though. Even though I followed everything to the T and spliced everything correctly, sometimes they don't always work, and I'm not entirely sure why. Sometimes I can only program it if the lights are either on or off, and that's the issue that I have sometimes with this. But the cruise control buttons work just fine. I don't have any issues with the cruise controls. They work every time. One of the other modifications that I've also done to this car is I've completely, aside from the steering wheel, I still have to do the steering wheel lights, is I actually took out all the puke green LEDs off of the circuit boards in here on, you know, in terms of the HVAC controls, your traction control button, your hazard, you know, setup, reset, all those buttons have red LEDs in them now. Because this is a deluxe GT premium, you do get the My Colors, so when you do turn on the lights, you won't see it, but I'll put a little video here where you can actually see that work being done. But you know, you obviously got the gauge cluster that's red, and then I went ahead and soldered all the chips to red LEDs in here as well. I personally like red. I think it looks pretty evil with the car, which is exactly why I went with red. And it's a little bit easier on the eyes, I believe, in my opinion, than the green. The green's just a little too damn bright, and with these red LED chips, it's a little bit easier on the eyes. Now we do have a carbon fiber center console here. I only paid like $100 for it. I actually personally don't care for a lot of carbon fiber things. A lot of the people in the Mustang community love putting carbon fiber on everything. And I think some accenting is good, but when you just cover the whole entire car in carbon fiber, it looks very childish in my opinion. Sorry guys, but that's just me. You know, I think some of the accenting works fine, but if you start, you know, covering this in carbon fiber, that in carbon fiber, this part in carbon fiber, it just loses its charm in my opinion. What I would actually more want to do instead is get the stock center console plastic and just get it leather wrapped. I'd rather just leather wrap things and have just this carbon fiber accenting right here, and I think it would look even so much better and more professional to just leather wrap everything inside this vehicle. Now let's go over the Dynavan. This thing is an awesome stereo system. So if we go ahead and turn it on here, so this is if you guys look up Dynavan, almost everybody in the Mustang community is actually recommending this stereo system, and I can see why. It's a great stereo. It's Android based, so you can put any apps that you want on it. Right now I have a custom launcher on it, so I've put all these custom little shortcuts to get to things a lot easier. I have my own music app that I've bought and purchased and downloaded, so that way I can actually you know, go through my library of music pretty easily, and it's still very user friendly as well. You got CarPlay, so CarPlay does work on this, and it's wireless for that matter too. So that's the plus about the Dynavan system, is it's a factory stereo. It's a factory-like solution to a modern problem, I guess. So if you're looking for the factory solution, I mean, these buttons look pretty much like they came with the Mustang. You know, like this custom bezel that comes with the stereo and these custom buttons that work with the stereo, it looks like this is something from Ford. And so that's why a lot of people like the Dynavan system, because it doesn't look aftermarket. It actually looks like it's something that Ford would have produced on a car in this generation if it was, you know, made in, I don't know, 2015 or 2012. And I say those years specifically because it is a matte. It is kind of a cheap screen though. I think Dynavan could have done a better job. This screen is matte, and they should have went with a gloss screen. I think it would have looked way more premium. Unfortunately, though, you know, you got to pick your battles. At least you get a lot of user functionality with this thing just because it is Android-based. So yeah, look up Dynavans. Dynavans are very great. I think I'll have a separate video on the Dynavan system and really go into depth with this stereo system, you know. But this is just to kind of let you know that this is what's been put on the vehicle. And then we obviously got two 12s in the back there. So I do have two Fosgates with the shitty Planet Audio amp that I do want to replace, so I get a little bit some better quality back there. But the stereo system obviously is hooked up to my two 12s, and they fit and sound pretty good on the Mustang. I've obviously went ahead and replaced a lot of the old halogen bulbs in here too with LEDs. I think that really modernizes an old vehicle like this, is to get rid of, like, everything on this car is completely LED. There is not even a single halogen bulb on this thing anymore. Taillight, license plates, the turn signals are also LED. You just have to put resistors in a lot of the turn signal stuff, because if you don't put resistors in it, then it hyper flashes. So I had to wire in resistors, and it just looks more modern on this car, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the interior of the vehicle. I just try to keep this thing looking as best as I can in here, and I try to restore a lot of these plastics and a lot of the leather in here, just because this is an old car and you don't want anything like the dash cracking, because that is a common issue on these cars, is the dashes can crack from the UV damage on these. And I try to clean the carpet almost frequently. The key to making a car smell clean, but it also has a nice old car smell, is literally just cleaning the carpet, cleaning inside the car, and just making sure that your car is as clean as possible, and it will smell amazing in here. Honestly, this car doesn't even smell like anything. In here, it literally just smells like an old car. Like, it smells like clean but old. That's the best way that I can describe the way that this car smells. It doesn't smell like old rotting plastic. It just smells like an old car. And there's always something cool about, like, you know, some people like that new car smell, other people like the old car smell, and this car has a great old car smell, just like my 98 Mustang did. And I think the key, like I said, is just constant cleaning things in here, and it will garner that smell. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this video. It's been a long and lengthy one just because I really am passionate about this car, and there's a lot of things and aspects about this car that I really enjoy and how it's been an extension to my everyday life for that matter. I hope this car gives me more experiences and more memories on the things to come. I would actually like to go on a little mini road trip. I would like to go from Houston, Texas to Georgia, or well, from Louisiana then to Georgia. But mainly I want to go to Florida specifically with this vehicle just because I think it is like the perfect vehicle to take to Florida, go to Orlando, go to Miami, Disney World, Universal Studios. I think I would love to do some kind of little trip like that with the Mustang. And I know it's more than capable of making that trip just because it is a very reliable vehicle. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about these vehicles and you're actually interested in getting into an S197 Mustang as well, I have a plethora of knowledge. I've spent a lot of years studying these vehicles just because I love this platform so much. So if you do have any questions or you're looking to buy one and you're looking for a little bit more information, maybe I left something out in this video. And if I had left anything out of this vehicle, or if I had I keep saying that, or if I did leave anything out of this video, I will also put it in a pinned description as well of just anything that I left out that I feel like would have been important for this video. You guys have a good rest of your day. I think I'm going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of my Sunday and look at the beach here and have some nice grub. Let's see how many other people notice me in my Reverend getup. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.